Thank you, folks. I'm going to call the meeting to order. Our first item is our Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Vice Chair, could you read our mission statement?
The mission of Marshall Public Schools is to educate, support, and prepare all learners for success.
Thank you. Need a motion to approve the agenda. Do we have one?
I'll move. I'll second.
Any additions? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Tiger Spotlight.
Sorry. We have the opportunity this week to celebrate Minnesota School Board Recognition Week. So statewide this week is the one where school districts will take the opportunity in various ways to say thank you to all of the school board members and to do a variety of different things to recognize the important work that all of you do and really staying focused on our students, families, and staff, and you know, the time that you put in. A lot of people obviously get to see you at school board meetings, but they don't also see the committee meetings and all the things that you try to get up to date with, the MSBA trainings that are, some of which are required, and you put in a lot of time. And just on behalf of all of our students and staff and families and community members, I would like to personally thank each and every one of you for the work that you do, for being a part of the school board, for giving us, that are staff members in our district, the opportunity to work with and for you. And we've got some certificates that I'll hand out. The certificates say Minnesota School Board Recognition Week, February 18th through the 22nd, 2019. Certificate of Appreciation, the Minnesota School Boards Association honors. Each of your names will be printed on your certificate for dedicated leadership in public education and continuing service to the students of this community. And they're signed by me from the Marshall School District. So I'll come around and shake your hands, and hopefully we can get a picture as well. Here, thank you. Bill, thank you. Very good order.
One to the other.
No, give me I'll just go to Sarah.
Yeah, that's actually a great idea. Thank you.
Jeff, thank you for everything you do. And Matt, thanks a lot. Sure. Why don't we come out front and get your folks' picture?
Will you come up here too? Be part of the school board.
Yep.
Come on up. We've talked about this. We have to put you roll.
You're still short, yeah. Some people are smarter. Copyright.
Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you.
Public forum. Now's the time. If anybody's in the public would like to approach the board, this is your time. Moving on to our presentations, technology department. Just be sure to dumb it down for us school board members. Welcome.
Thank you.
We should note that Nick is here, the Chopped chef champion and 2 times, yeah, so we're not going to let him into the district office cooking events anymore.
All right, Chairperson Chapman, board members, district officials, and guests, let me thank you for this opportunity to share some data and showcase some innovative examples of technology use in our district. My name is Todd Pickthorn, District Network Services Coordinator, and with me is Karen Longren, our Technology Integration Specialist. I like to say that technology success is 80% people and 20% technology. It really takes the right people doing the right things with technology to make it work in a classroom setting or any setting for that matter. This first chart that I have for you here is a Office 365 product usage. Office 365 is a Microsoft subscription that we subscribe to that allows us to move our data to the cloud. We move our data to the cloud for reliability, data security, and ease of access. So a lot of our data is now residing in the cloud, and we have controls over those access. One of the interesting facts here is that peak totals for the year are that our Office 365 usage is over 91%. So all students in grades 5 through 12, 91% of them regularly use that application. Our Exchange use is at 79.3%, and our OneDrive usage is at 75.6%. We have we're approaching 2 million files now on our OneDrive account, so a lot of data out in the cloud and available to others. I think the interesting data here is that the use of OneDrive and the concept of sharing files within classrooms has made it so that now our OneDrive usage is overtaken even email usage. So it kind of demonstrates the capability of teachers able to share data with their students without having to print or email any of that information. They can just share it with them. They can complete the work and turn it back into that OneDrive account without having to print or do things with it. And they can access that information because it's in the cloud anytime, anywhere, on any device, because you have applications that can be loaded on iPads or phones or any of that to access the data. So, so that's Office 365. Turn it over to Karen here.
Okay. Each year, we ask our pre-K through 12th grade staff, as well as our grade 5 through 12 students, to take an annual technology survey. This survey allows us to gather valuable data and feedback from our staff as well as our students about our technology program. The information that we gather through these surveys includes how devices are used in the classroom, what resources are used, for example, software, online resources, curriculum resources, as well as feedback as far as what's gone well and what hasn't gone well and what we can improve upon. Our staff are also asked for feedback on professional development opportunities that we provide them. So Todd and I would like to share just a couple highlights of some of the survey information that we recently gathered in January. There's additional information included in your board packet as well on a document with more information on that survey data. While that information is not comprehensive, it will provide you a good highlight of information that we gathered. So for example, in surveying Parkside staff, when we asked Parkside staff if there was staff available to provide technology support in their classrooms, 100% of the staff that took the survey answered yes. When we asked staff in grades 3 through 12 that same question, all respondents either agreed or strongly agreed. There were no disagrees. Back to Parkside staff, when we asked if they felt prepared to teach in a one-to-one classroom environment, 19 of the 22 teachers who responded to our survey said yes. So 86% felt prepared to teach in a one-to-one classroom. We also asked staff what's gone well, in addition to what challenges have they faced in using technology in their classroom. There again, there's comments in the documentation that we provided in your board packet, so I won't read through those, but allow you to read that information. Our staff are also asked what resources or technologies they would like additional training or support with. These results are then used to develop training opportunities either during the course of the school year or summer opportunities as well. Todd?
So I'm going to talk about the student survey results. We had 1,375 students in grades 5 through 12 complete the annual technology device survey. Below are some of the results. When asked the question if students have internet access at home, over 96% responded that they did. 3.59% said they did not. When asked if they needed additional help or instruction using their Office 365 account, we had 95.7% of the students that said no, they didn't need any additional help with that, and about 4.3% that said they did. That probably accounts for some of those accounts that weren't getting used regularly. So, and then I'll have you refer to your packet for some of these open-ended comments. I know the resounding theme from the themes from the student survey was that they felt they were more organized. 85.33% said yes. It was easier to complete their homework. Again, back to access anytime, anywhere. It makes homework easier. It can hand in assignments to teachers easier online, and the ability to research more materials. So all positive things that I think are a result of the one-to-one program. So that's all we have for now. I think at this time I'm going to turn it over to Dan Smith.
Theater guy always has to bring props.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Wants to bring it forward. All right. Yay. Well, thank you to Todd Pickthorn and to all of you for inviting me in this afternoon, this evening, to talk with you a little bit about how students are using technology in our video production broadcast journalism course out at Marshall High School. My name is Dan Smith. I am a language arts teacher. This is my 17th year in the district, which is unbelievable. I don't know where all that time has gone. Year before last, Mr. Jones asked me, he and I in a conversation, he asked me if I would be willing to take on the challenge of trying to steer our video production program to something that was a little bit more consistent and maybe a little bit more successful. We'd been having a hard time getting somebody to come into that program and stay there for a few years. That had been a tough one to fill. Because of my background in performance and in theater and my love of storytelling as a language arts teacher, it has turned out to be a unique fit and a really exciting new challenge to take on 20 years into my teaching career. So Todd asked me today to come in and talk a little bit about how students are using technology in video production. And for me, as a teacher, he talked about technology success being 80% people and 20% technology. I'm always concerned when the technology becomes the end game. I want technology to be a tool that facilitates student work in a classroom rather than being the learning goal itself. When Todd and I were talking about this in preparation for this presentation, he said, exactly. In educational technology, we call it the 4 C's: creativity, critical thinking, communication, and collaboration. And that was a big aha moment for me because I'm constantly talking about all of those things with my students. In video production, the soft skills of communication and collaboration are some of the most important practical skills that students develop. All right? And so I hope that in the next 10 to 12 minutes I'll be able to demonstrate for you guys how technologies
are useful in how students are using technology in the process of creating 2 to 3 minute broadcast journalism news packages, they're called. And we are gearing ourselves toward doing a regular Tiger TV magazine, news magazine, as we develop the program. This year we've called it Tiger TV Showcase. Some of you, I think, maybe have seen some of those pieces. So every story starts with a clear focus. What is your focus statement? The first and most important thing that students have to get their minds wrapped around. I'm going to go out and do a story on this, on that, and the other. Okay, what is your focus statement? In one sentence, clearly, what is the story that you're going to be telling? Okay? And a lot of times, this can be really challenging for students, and sometimes it's a moving target. They'll go out and shoot, they'll go out and film, and they'll realize, we thought we were going this way, but Mr. Smith, I think we're going to have to go that way. And say, exactly, that's exactly right. Okay? Amran did some of that last year in class, right? From the point that they have decided on their focus statement, technology, step by step, facilitates every part of the process moving forward. And I'm going to offer a sort of brag moment. I was at a conference this past Saturday up at the Millennium Hotel in downtown Minneapolis with journalism teachers. It was mostly newspaper people, and I was one of the only broadcast journalism teachers who was there, and one of the presenters was Boyd Huppert from KARE 11 News. And since I was one of the only broadcast guys there, I got to spend all kinds of time with him. He and I ate lunch together and talked for an hour about teaching focus statements. And he said, I don't know that I've heard of any high school programs where people are learning that. He said, but that right there is what most of the work in my job is. And this is a guy who's got over 110 Emmy Awards in his back pocket. He's the most awarded or decorated regional journalist in the United States. And he shared a bunch of really great stuff with me, too. So when students go out and shoot on location, framing and composition is the art of storytelling through a lens. The first technology thing that they need to be able to do, they just took a quiz on this last week, and a lot of kids were really nervous. Within 45 seconds, they have to show me that they can safely have their tripod set up and camera ready to shoot when they are out on location, ready to safely shoot while they are out on location. We are lucky enough to have about 10 functioning cameras going, 6 of them that are brand new last year that were purchased with money that we worked with the city to get. So we've got some really great stuff going on there. Audio is perhaps the most important component of video. Alex Peterson from Studio One and I have talked a lot about this. You can watch or you can listen to something on the radio and not have the video, and it won't bother you, right? I love to listen to baseball games and I don't see it. And when I'm not seeing it on the TV, I'm listening on the radio. With video, if you have poor audio, you have a bad video. It is poof, gone. People will shut it off. If your audio is bad, people will not watch the rest of the video. So they've got to learn how to use, I'm multitasking, which my wife tells me I should never do. So they need to learn how to use lav mics, both transmitters and receivers, and get those connected properly to the camera. They need to learn how to use shotgun mics for capturing ambient sounds. Here's a shotgun mic that was purchased through Pride and the Tiger grant. All right, and they're connecting those to the cameras when they're going out. And then finally, there are onboard microphones in the cameras as well. And they've got headphones on and they're monitoring all their sound when they're out on location doing a shoot. So students have gone out and done some really, really great stories over the past year and a half or so. And we're getting shots like this, okay? So this is obviously Mr. Frazee. In October, a few students decided they wanted to do a news story on Mr. Frazee's passion for fishing and his fishing business. So immediately we're into talking about focus statements. Okay, what's your focus statement going to be? Mr. Frazee loves fishing? What kind of story is that? Come on, right? Then they got into, okay, our assistant principal designs and manufactures custom walleye jigs that professional walleye fishermen all over the country are ordering from him. And like his kids are bagging them up from him at the kitchen table, and his group is now moving on to the point where they're looking at maybe hiring companies to help them with them because they're growing so much. This is a fantastic interview shot. They asked Mr. Frazee if they could interview him, and Mr. Frazee, being who he is, said, "Hey, I tell you what, guys, the weather looks like it's going to be nice on Friday." It was the first Friday in November. "Why don't I bring my boat to school, and we'll go down to Lake Sarah, and let's go out and do some fishing together, and you guys can film how they're working." And they said, "We'll do the interview down there," and da-da-da-da. Mr. Frazee called their parents. They were all okay with it. They went down and framed this interview. And shot this interview. So we talk about the rule of thirds all the time in broadcast journalism production. We always want to have our subject on the thirds with eyes on third, all right? And then we want to leave nose room or looking space or talking space or lead room where the subject is looking so that we don't have the subject trapped in frame. So this is like a professional quality shot, and the interview that they got is fantastic. They do have the microphone on the wrong side, but they did get good sound anyway. I'd like to see the mic over here so that we're getting where the sound is. But they did a nice job with it and got a great interview. Once they are out interviewing, learning interview techniques is also a big technology thing with microphones and with shooting. And then you get into the asking the questions and having the conversations. Here you see students practicing on the left, interview technique. Here we have Lexi behind the camera. Skylar is being interviewed, and Dylan is the interviewer. Over on the right, you see students interviewing Jess Mincink from the college. This time they're using a shotgun mic on a boom to get their sound, and they're actually using a China ball there as a light to get the lighting look that we want. Okay? So once we've gone out and we've done all the filming, we've done our interviews, we've done, shot all our B-roll, all of those types of things, we get back into the classroom, into post-production, and technology plays an enormous role because data management and file storage is like the most important, difficult thing to get right, and if you don't get it right, it can break down the whole process. And last year we had kids with SD card readers and USB plugging into USB ports and USB drives all over the place, and it was slowing down projects, it was slowing down productivity. I started to talk with Todd about it. Todd and Nick and Kent were fantastic with me getting what is called a Synology disk station. So we have this is a huge number, 64 terabyte basically server space that is serving just FA 104, which is the video production studio out at the high school. In that, I'm the network manager for it, and so when students, first of all, every student has their own file, their own folder when they're in the class, and then as the network administrator, if 3 students are working on a project, I can create a folder and give those 3 students, and only those 3 students, access to the project, to their files. So they come back from being out on a shoot, they take all of their media files, and they dump them into that S drive folder, that shared folder, and we know that they're safe, and they're working with them in one place. If the 3 of you guys are doing a project together, and in past years what would happen is Dion is gone, and he had our SD cards, so there's really nothing we can do in class today. None of that is an issue anymore, because if we store our data and manage it the way that we need to right away, bam, it's always there, and the computers function with it a whole lot more quickly. So here are the guys who did this. They were 1B, and you can see I had all of these stories. There were 17 stories going on at once this fall. So the Frazee Fishing Group, here they've got their data from camera 1, their footage from camera 2, all of their audio. Here's their Premiere Pro save files. Fishing Time is what they called their file as they were filming it. And that works out so great. The way that has streamlined all of these processes is fantastic. And they have been terrific working with me on it. Todd and Nick and Kent have been. We also shifted our Adobe licensing from being a machine-based to being a student-based subscription. So every student, when they're in my class, has a login for the entire Adobe Creative Cloud suite of programs. Not only does this mean that they can use all of the programs that Adobe offers. So we're not just using Premiere Pro, which is the video editing. We're using Audition, we're using Media Encoder, all kinds of different programs that we weren't using as much before. But it also means that students who have a personal computer at home that can run the software can install it there and do some editing on projects at home. And I have had that happen on a number of occasions this year, which is really great to see. Okay? Edit Base. We had computers that were not built for video editing, and we were asking them to video edit, and they just couldn't do it. We had large projects last year where students would come in, get their media files plugged in to the USB ports, open up their video project, make one move, and then bling, the blue spinny wheel, and then the classroom is done, and they weren't able to be productive. I worked with Mr. Jones, and I worked with Todd, and we were able to get 3 new edit bays installed in FA 104 this year. They are absolutely fantastic. It has allowed students to be so much more creative and productive with the work they're doing. Here you see Tyler and Joe working on that Frazee project. I happen to have a picture of that one right there. And then the posters that you see, there's that What's Your Focus Statement poster at each edit bay. I have all kinds of storytelling, shooting, and editing suggestions always there with them, and those have been fantastic. All right? We go on to video or to audio recording for voiceovers. All broadcast journalism pieces have some sort of narrative script that tells the story as we run through. We have 2 of these Zoom digital recorders that we purchased through Pride in the Tiger grant. It's a 6-channel, fully digital professional audio recorder. Here you see Joe and Tyler recording their voiceover for the piece that they've written, and it's on a music stand right there. And this is a pop filter that they have on the microphone so the P's and B's don't go boom, boom, boom when they're reading them. So they're learning how to...
That's what those are for.
Yeah, yeah.
I never knew that.
Now the next time you're watching something on TV...
I don't need one, but...
All right, so they're recording all of those voiceovers for their projects as well. All right. And then we also, this year, were able, through Pride in the Tiger, to get a teleprompter so that we can do news anchor segments. And a teleprompter like this, it's a little too big to bring along, is we've got basically what is an iPad projecting the text up onto glass that's at a 45-degree angle. The camera is underneath the hood. And so students are looking directly into the camera lens as they read their text. So they're getting the experience of news anchoring, both writing those scripts, the VOSAT scripts, and then performing as anchors. And here you see them in the classroom one day there. Alejandro is running the text, Brett is on camera, and then we've got Nick and Katie there as our anchors. And then we pull a TV from the library and have the Tiger logo behind us. Okay? So by the time students had completed the first episode of Tiger TV Showcase in November, they had used technology in literally every step of the process, but the technology wasn't the end game. The technology was the tools that made the project possible. And all of these 4 C's, creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, and communication skills are constantly being supported throughout each of these projects. The first episode of Tiger TV Showcase has over 540 views on YouTube. Has been viewed all over the country, and I say even all over the world because I was at a broadcast journalism conference in Springfield, Missouri this summer, and 2 of the teachers were there who are our international teachers. One is in Seoul, South Korea, and one of them is in Abu Dhabi. There were 3 Mikes, and I don't even know the guy's last name because we just called him Abu Dhabi Mike. But Abu Dhabi Mike emailed me and said, hey, I showed 3 of the stories from your guys' work today in my class, and students were really fascinated by them, and it gave us gave them some confidence that, yeah, this is something we can do as well. Tricia, I might need your help with this. As we wrap things up, I just brought one piece with me today so that you can see what students have been working on. This started with students deciding that they wanted to do a story on teachers who teach at Marshall High School that are also graduates of Marshall High School. And I said, okay, that's a great big broad focus. Let's see where it goes. They went out and started doing some interviews. And after they had shot a couple of days, I said, okay, focus statement, guys. What's our focus statement? And they said, here's what we decided we want to do. We want to take the song. Our focus statement is going to be Marshall High School is home for these MHS alum teachers. And I said, oh, okay, now we're going somewhere. Talk to me more about that. And they said, what we decided we want to do is we want to take the song home and have that underscore the entire piece, and then have them talk about activities that they were in when they were in high school and how education and the school system has changed since they were here. So take a look. This is about 3 minutes. And you get to see a news anchor piece as well.
While planning the next story, reporters Maddie Rowe, Natalie Lawaji, and Sam Dale began to realize that several MHS teachers were once MHS students.
So they scrapped their first story idea and spent several days interviewing teachers about their high school years and the experience of teaching at their alma mater. Take a look.
Everyone knows that MHS is home to some of the greatest teachers. What you might not know is that some of these teachers actually graduated right here at Marshall High School. We first asked them questions about the activities they were involved in.
I was involved athletically in football and baseball.
The activities that I was involved in sports-wise was football, hockey, and track and field.
I was involved in a lot. 3 sports, football, basketball, baseball. I was also involved in speech and theater.
I was involved in speech. I was on food council. I was also a regular participant in detention and the nurse's office.
I was involved in football, marching band, basketball, winter drumline, National Honor Society, and peer helping.
We also wanted to know how the high school and the education has changed since they were students.
In 2018, compared to when I was 18 years old, students have a lot more responsibility in terms of standards, objectives, outcomes, standardized testing.
I think that there are a lot more students that take advantage of AP classes and the CIS classes and the PSEO and some of this stuff. When I went to school, some of the teachers are different, but I've had a lot of the teachers that are at Marshall. Some of the things that are different now, there's a lot more technology used than when I was here, and there's a lot more focus on college readiness.
Lunch periods were definitely different a little bit. There was a ABC, and that's where they put in a lot of the specials like band and youth choir.
It's changed quite a bit in terms of location, of course, because I was in the other building, so this building wasn't here yet.
I think the facilities that they have now compared to the facilities we had at the middle school for like sports practices has changed.
It's a different building. Everything's bigger. More students, more teachers. I would say that everything is really different from when I went there.
We found it very evident that Marshall is home to these MHS alumni.
We love teaching at MHS, and we love the students here, and we wouldn't change the choices that we made. This is home.
With videographer Natalie Lawaji, editor Maddie Rowe, and me, Sam Dale, we are Tiger TV.
Peace and love. Peace.
The sock says something about being a math nerd. So they said they knew what their focus statement was when they were out doing that interview, and Mrs. Bladholm said, "This is home." And they said, that's when we made the decision. I love how that, among other things, humanizes teachers for students, make us look like a little less like test tube experiences or experiments that you fold up and put in the closet at the end of the day and then pull them out. You know, humanizes us, makes us a little bit more human. But also, you know, for the community, this has been shown on Tiger TV and on Studio One, a really great window into the high school building for members of our community who aren't there every day. So, does anybody have any questions?
Have you turned them loose to do any production with other phones yet?
Yeah, absolutely. There have been several times where they're working on a project and they see something that they're like, oh man, I need to get footage of this real quick, and they'll use their phones for footage, and we can make that work. There was a group that did a story on the dress up activities for the student section at volleyball games, and some footage that was shot on a phone was used in that. Absolutely.
As the resident broadcast media specialist on the board, I will tell you that the equipment that they're using and the tactics you're teaching them are state of the art. It's incredible to see them learning at that level. Just a compliment to you and everybody else involved with that program.
Thank you. Yeah, and having worked this summer with teachers from all over the country, I don't take any of what we have for granted, and I remind students of that all the time because it's a unique opportunity for them for sure. Thank you.
Is Boyd going to come down and do a story on it?
I invited him to my classroom at any time, and he said that we'll have to see once how things work out. I did get a really nice email from him on Monday, and we shot emails back and forth 3 or 4 times. So he's a really humble and personable guy. He's the character that you see, the persona that you see on screen is absolutely who he is. Super guy.
Dan, your enthusiasm for what you do, not just this, just as permeates our district.
Well, thank you.
My grandson took your CIS English course.
That's been a long time.
When he went to NDSU, he didn't have to take the English course because of your class, but he said, I really learned how to write.
Cool.
Mr. Smith's class.
Cool. Well, thank you. That's what I love to do. Hopefully I can learn more about writing for broadcast. I'm getting closer. Boyd did send me, that was a cool thing. He sent me, because writing the voiceover scripts is really difficult, and it's a very different kind of writing than the academic writing that we were teaching in CIS when Chase was in school. But he sent me a link to a story and then a presentation, two-sided presentation where on the left side, his VOSOT script is all there, and on the right side is like a stream of consciousness annotation commentary from Boyd Huppert about why he did that and how it fits into his formula that he uses for each story and stuff. So I'll be in the process of stealing snippets of that and integrating it in our classes for sure. So
thanks for taking
awesome.
The challenge. We're blessed to have you in this program.
Well, thank you. It's a lot of fun.
How did you like it, Amron?
The class? I liked it. It was one of my favorite classes because I had that and photography at the same time, so it was a lot of new things at once.
Yeah, you learned a lot about framing and composition all at once. She did come in the next semester and left a note on my board claiming to be my favorite video production student ever. Isn't that right, Emily?
I only write true statements.
You only write. I only write the truth. Thank you.
Can't use them yet. Fun stuff.
See, you should never do this to kids. You can't give them the toy until you've told them about it.
Oh, she said don't use them yet. I'm following directions.
Okay, sorry.
Next, we'll have Tammy Doulis from Westside take you on a Google expedition.
Another thing I'd like to say is, Todd, you've been a gift to our district since day one. You have been a leader for technology. We're blessed to have you in this district and in Marshall.
Thank you. I'm blessed to have great staff that I work with, though. That really helped me a lot. So, thank you.
Hi. So I teach technology at Westside to 3rd and 4th graders, and was it 2 years? I think this is our 2nd year with the Google Expedition kits. And Karen Lundgren and Todd Pickthorn worked together to secure a grant from Minnesota Telemedia in conjunction with Southwest Central Service Co-op. So our district received 3 kits, so the high school has 1, middle school has 1, and Westside has a kit. And then the service co-op also has a kit that they can loan out to other districts in the region too. So each kit includes 1 teacher device and 10 student devices and the viewers and a router so they can all be connected and the chargers. And it's all in a little case. Kids ask me if I'm leaving when I'm walking down the hallway with my suitcase. But they love it because they know what's coming when that kit comes in. Anyway, so virtual reality places the students inside an experience So instead of viewing a screen like just a TV in front of them, they are immersed right into it, 3D, so it helps them better understand and apply the concepts they're learning. So currently there's 921 VR expeditions that you can search through. And they're created by leading museums, universities, laboratories, and publishers. They continue to add to the list. So I check on it periodically to see if there's anything new that's been added that matches our standards at Westside, and then I pass that on to the teachers. So I looked through the list and made a third grade list and a fourth grade that tied into the units they teach and met the standards, and the teachers look through. And when they find one they want, they let me know which expedition, what day, so then I come in and I lead the expedition with their kids. It takes about 35 to 45 minutes depending on it. Some of these get really deep, the college even uses them, so I kind of just touch on pieces that would apply to the kids. They're wonderful for high school as well, because you can go on virtual college visits with this, and you can get into the different careers, veterinarian, whatever you want to be, and see some of the tasks they would do to see if it might interest you. You can do anything. You can go to art galleries all over the world, museums. You can swim underwater with the sharks, visit outer space without leaving the classroom, which we're going to do tonight. We're going to take an expedition to the solar system, and this is one that I used with the third graders. So I'm going to just jump right to it. This is my iPad, and each one of you show up as a little smiley face when I know that you're on the spot I want you to look at. So if you have glasses, you'll want to take your glasses off. And before we start, depending on the topic, some of it is a little bit too much. This one would be fine for third graders. So it's the solar system is our neighborhood in space. It is a collection of planets and smaller objects, all traveling around a central star, the sun. The solar system is a collection of 8 planets, more than 170 moons, dwarf planets, and countless millions of comets and asteroids all going around the sun. And then there might be a question I'd ask. A beginner question would be, how old is the solar system? And they make their guesses, and then answers the solar system is about 4.6 billion years old, approximately the same age as the Earth. Then there's an intermediate question if you were maybe in middle school, high school, and even advanced for college. And then you can look into your devices. Now you're going to follow a white arrow. So are your chairs swivel? Okay, you don't want to stand up when you're looking at these. I have the kids sit down on their pockets, and they have to just scoot around until they see this circle. Once I see all your faces on my circle, then I'll tell you what you're looking at. So look in your goggles, and do you see outer space? Okay, and now turn in your chairs and follow the white arrow until you see a circle. Okay, I see some of you getting over there. It's got, yeah?
Oh, the video on this is going to be cool.
The Milky Way. Okay, the solar system is 4.6 billion years old and is situated in one arm of the Milky Way galaxy. On a clear night, the ribbon of stars that cuts across the sky is the Milky Way. Okay, now follow the arrow till you see the sun. Accounting for 99.9% of the solar system's mass, the sun is a vast ball of glowing hot gas. It is so big and heavy that its gravity pulls all the objects in the solar system in orbit around it. Okay, now you're looking at Mercury, the smallest and closest planet to the sun. Being so close to the sun, it is also the hottest. Venus, the second planet from the sun. There's Earth. 1 million Earths could fit inside the sun. Despite its apparent proximity, in reality it is located 90 million miles away, and light from the sun takes 8 minutes to reach Earth. Might have to spin on that one. Mars. Mars is our neighboring planet. It has conditions that are most similar to the Earth. Mars is commonly known as the red planet due to its appearance. Jupiter. Jupiter is a gas giant known for its marvelous marbled atmosphere. The planet's most famous feature, a gigantic storm known as the Great Red Spot, has existed since the 17th century. Saturn, another gas giant with a gorgeous ring around it. Uranus is the 7th planet from the sun. Due to its distance from the sun, it takes Uranus 84 Earth years to complete one orbit. And Neptune. It's the farthest planet from the sun in our solar system. Due to its distance from the sun, it's extremely cold with a mean surface temperature of negative 360 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, so that would be the end of one of the sections. I'll just take you to another one too. Let's see here. Here is the Milky Way galaxy. So a new view will come up. And an introduction here would be our solar system is located within one of the spiral arms of the Milky Way galaxy. The sun is optimally located in one of the outer spiral arms away from vast star clusters and potentially dangerous supernovas, resulting in a relatively stable solar system that at least in the case of one planet can support life, or in the case of one planet. Here's the Milky Way. It covers an area of about 100,000 light years and contains over 2 billion stars. We're about 25,000 light years from the center of the galaxy. Here's Orion's spur. Our spiral arm is called Orion's sphere, also known as Orion's spur, and other galaxies. And let's see if there's one more here. I'm skipping over a few that I don't do with the kids. Here's the planets in our solar system. Let me do you a different one here. Let's try perspective. Okay, so the sun, and they all scream when they see this one, is 109 times wider than Earth. The fact that the sun is so small in our sky shows just how far away the sun is from Earth. For illustration purposes, the distance between the planets has been reduced. If the distance were not reduced, Neptune wouldn't even be in the same room as the sun. So it gives them a little bit of perspective. And then if we have extra time, we show them some of the asteroid belts. I'll let you look at that. The 4 largest asteroids in the asteroid belt are Ceres, Vesta, Pallas, and Hygiea, which contain half the mass of the entire belt. There was a theory that if you combined all the asteroids, they would make up the missing 5th rocky planet. And there's the Kuiper belt. And there's an Oort cloud. So that gives you a little idea of how it feels when you're out there and you really can see the perspective of each of the planets and the sun. Comes to life form. So we've done different ones with 4th grade. We've done some bacteria and viruses. There's all kinds of expeditions on cells, many that fit with a lot of their standards. So we use it a lot, and the kids love it. Some of them use it to pre-teach some of the vocabulary, and some of them use it at the end of a unit just as a good review. So it's getting used. Yeah, yep, the teachers have something else for the others to do. They might be watching a video on it or doing a worksheet or reading about them. When we did the planets, they were working on their planet reports, so I'd just take 10 at a time back to the carpet and we'd go through that. So a nice addition. Any questions? The whole set, the kids always get so excited because they're all phones. So the whole set was, I just looked today online, about $3,800. Yeah, well worth it.
So you didn't mention Pluto, it's still not a planet, right?
No.
I thought somebody was trying to bring it back and
I
make
think
it a
they
planet.
probably, not here.
Somebody was trying to say it was a planet again.
Huh, yep. All
That's
right.
really cool
Yep,
stuff.
thanks.
Thank you, Tammy.
Thanks, Tammy.
Yep, you're welcome.
Awesome one. Thank you very much. Moving on to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion?
I'll second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, please vote. It is approved. Moving on to our financials. Dion, do you have anything you'd like to add to financials? I'll make a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Just point out the debt service fund, that amount is made up of the principal and interest that we make a payment in January. Same with the OPEB debt service, it's principal and interest payment. Otherwise, the other bills are basically the same as last month.
Very good. Any questions? Hearing none, please vote. Is approved. Anything else you'd like to add to the report?
Nope, everything, the percentages look on schedule.
Board forum, board members, anything you'd like to bring up?
I did attend the Pride in the Tiger Foundation meeting since I'm the liaison, and they are doing on April 13th the Pride in the Tiger Awards banquet or Hall of Honor banquet. So hopefully people will attend that, where community members are recognized, and it's a fundraiser for the foundation. So.
Very good. Anybody else? Administrators report.
Hard to follow the technology information. That's really interesting. It makes me want to go back and take classes all over again. That's good stuff. So some report updates for you. From my report, just some information about legislative advocacy, sort of what we're seeing already. Some of you maybe had the opportunity to see or read about the governor's budget proposal today. I believe he proposed 3% funding increase for next year and a 2% funding increase for the following year. So I guess the challenge with that is it's what he wants, right? So it's likely to go down as the legislative session starts. So your advocacy member efforts are really gonna matter. And you know, I think I'd shared with you that I've heard numbers all the way from $50 per student being proposed. I think that was maybe in the Senate, up to 1.5% or 2% in the House. So if you're looking for a landing point, it's likely to be in the 2% range, I think, which is what we have budgeted also. But just the real message with that is messages probably pay attention, which I think you're already doing. And anytime there's an opportunity to advocate, please take advantage of that. I shared a variety of referendum information. You know, our tagline is investing in a strong future. Our social media hashtag is Tiger Strong, and I think the logo is actually in my report as well. In Tiffany's report, on March 1st, Little Cubs preschool registration for next year opens up. And then she also had some pictures, and I saw a lot of stuff on social media from the father-daughter snowball and the mother-son superhero bash that they had. Just a really cool opportunities for those folks to get together and spend some time celebrating. Darcy's report, she talks about how access training and testing helps, that data helps our teachers guide their instruction. And she also shared some information about an Imagine Learning program that we've been using for a few years now, but I think this might be the first or second year at Parkside to help support our EL students. And again, there's technology that's coming into play. In Jim's report from Westside, he had information about the 3rd and 4th grade book battles. And I would also say, and it's not in his report, but coming up, I want to say, Tricia's, when is the Shark Tank? March 21st, maybe? Coming up. If you've never been to that at Westside, they have, like, if you've seen the TV show Shark Tank, kids do that. They create a product. It's fictional, obviously, but and then they kind of narrow it down to the final 4 teams, I think, and they present to a panel of sharks, and it's pretty interesting. So I'll get you more information on that. Mary Kay's report, she shared I Love to Read activities that middle school students participated in February. And then she also gave updates about the math counts, math team, and perennial math competitions. A lot of our middle school students are involved in those. Brian's report, he shared 3 classroom projects of interest, of which Mr. Smith's, I believe, was one of them, and also provided an update on the site continuous improvement plan for the high school and some things happening with that. Chad's report, similar update on his site continuous improvement plan for Maytech. And just so you know, we've had to shuffle some parent-teacher conferences around because of weather, so Maytechs are now scheduled for February 26th. Bruce's report about activities, we had 55 Business Professionals of America students who advanced to the state competition. That's a really outstanding number. I'm not sure if it's the highest we've ever had, but that's a high number, and kudos to all of them. And also, he shared information about fall sports teams who were recognized for academic achievement. I believe, if I remember correctly, boys cross country, girls tennis, and volleyball all received gold academic awards, and football and swimming and diving received silver. So our kids do well, our student athletes and student participants. Jeremy's report, he shared an update on what's happening with the world's best workforce, and also for your information, and also in his report, he is forming sort of an ad hoc committee to take a look at e-learning days as an option for next year and beyond for snow makeup days. We had visited about that maybe 2 years ago, but there were some hurdles that we just, as a committee, I can't remember if it was the technology committee or staff development committee, there were some hurdles that we thought, yeah, we need to wait on this right now because we weren't sure we could meet the state's requirements at the level that we felt we needed to. But Jeremy's going to pull a committee together, do some work, try to come up with a recommendation that eventually would channel its way through my office to you. So just March 6th. Thanks, Bill. Beth shared that we received I want to say it was Kari Ellers, $2,600 grant from the Lyon Murray County Families Project Collaborative. Bill, you're on that. I think you mentioned that, to plan for activities for EL families. And we're also she is also doing a mid-year personal goal check-in survey for licensed staff. That's a part of the teacher development and evaluation plan, just to sort of monitor how they're coming on their own personal goals and offer support and ideas for them. Jackie, in her report, among other things, shared an update on the Marshall Learning Center, which is a Setting 3 program that we have in the district. I see Nikki's back there doing great work with those kids, so kudos to you, Nikki. If you think back to when we started that 3 years ago, Nikki?
This is year 4.
4? Yeah, well, when you're as old as I am, time just flies. But we started it, I think, with 2 or 3 students and understanding that it would likely grow. If we didn't have that program in our district, we would likely need to be transporting students to other Setting 3 programs. So we're very fortunate to have that and serve our students in our own district in those cases. And then Scott Vandermillen in his report shared that 13 students are enrolled in the CNA course, and that Studio One TV, and Alex would be involved in this. I think they broadcasted 5 different high school events in January, including Snow Week, Coronation, and the Talent Show. Ladies?
Okay, I'll go first. At the middle school, the conferences that were held on February 14th were canceled due to weather, and the rescheduled dates is Thursday, February 21st, beginning at 3:30 to 7:30, and the 8th grade high school registration begins at 5:30 that night. Grades 5 through 8 winter orchestra concert on February 28th at 7:30 p.m. And on March 5th, there's a monthly PTA meeting at 6 p.m. And on March 14th, 5th and 7th graders have their winter band concert at 6 p.m. and the 6th and 8th grade have their winter band concert at 7:30 p.m. And at Parkside, it's the 100th day of school on February 15th. so it was a very short 100th day of school. SMSU's chemistry club is going to the Tiger Bride celebration on February 22nd. And the dress-up days for next week is on Monday, wear a shirt you can read. On Tuesday, Pockets Day. On Wednesday is Pajama Day. And on Thursday is Green Day, Green Eggs and Ham Day. And the kickoff for the Kids Heart Challenge is on February 28th. And on the first day, Kindness Day, March 1st, classes are challenged on if their entire class can get a Tiger token. Spring Picture Day is March 1st, and March 8th, there's a family movie night. Peter the Rabbit will be shown.
Okay, I will start with the Marshall High School. Freshman long year classes will be having a college visit on Thursday, February 21st. And congratulations to Mr. Ivers, who received the Music Educator of the Year from the Minnesota Music Educator Association. And also congratulations to the MHS wrestling team. They won Section 3AA title, and they will be competing in state tournaments in the next 2 weeks. Six members of the speech team went to Harvard for a national tournament. Tamia Hedlund is now in the top 6 out of 200 students in her category. And update on that, she did won 3rd in the national tournament, bringing home a big trophy. All those dates for the class registrations have been moved to next week. Current 11th graders, the class registration will be on February 26th. Current 10th graders will be on February 27th. Current 9th graders will be on February 28th. Makeup Day will be on March 1st. And for Maytech, conferences were rescheduled for Tuesday, February 26th. And due to the weather delays and cancellations, CNA Virtual Dementia was canceled, and they are looking for rescheduling that sometime. Pre-ACTs for 10th graders are going to be on Tuesday, which was today. For Westside 3rd and 4th graders, concert will be at MHS on Thursday, March 7th, and the access test is still being continued till March 22nd. Yes.
Very good, thank you. Well,
Thanks, Jeff. I didn't put in here, Jenny, for your information, in case you need a headline. Today is Scott's birthday. I attended the MASBO Winter Conference a couple weeks ago. They had some really good sessions. It's kind of nice going in a different setting from my old job. Plus networking with some of the different business managers was pretty cool. And then just kind of skipping down, piggybacking off of what Scott was talking about, advocating, I just put some different graphs together of what it looks like with the different percentages of what would get passed for basic funding from this year to next year, just so you guys can have a visual of that as you guys advocate to our legislators.
Yeah, how much is that difference again? 1% is for us on 100.
What I wrote down.
Sorry.
$63.12.
Chad's up to
Per student, right?
Good. That's a lot of money. Thank you, Dion. Moving on to our discussion items. Any, discussion items, first review of policies 524 to 529. Are there any questions? Moving on to our fundraisers.
This is just something that in policy superintendent or designee is supposed to provide sort of a list of all existing fundraisers annually. It's been a while since we've done this, so we have reached out to our staff and said, can you tell us what fundraising activities you're familiar with, associated with, whatever. Not all of these are necessarily school-sponsored. You'll see some in there that are maybe more athletic, or booster club, or PTA, or something like that. It's just review. We're not proposing to try to clean up the list or take any away or anything like that. It's just for your information, so you have an idea of fundraisers that are taking place, who they're coordinated by, approximate dates, what that involves, and what are the fundraisers for. This type of information will be helpful later on in the meeting. I anticipate you'll look at it and maybe approve the revised fundraising policy, where this type of information I think will be helpful to us as we share information with various people, primarily staff members, about moving forward. Here's what we're going to go through to add any new fundraisers to this list. But I'd entertain questions.
Questions, board members?
I notice under middle school, we've got a lot of food for kids. Selling items?
Yeah.
That's,
It's not a lot of selling. There's a lot of in fundraisers that they do that they put in the classrooms and stuff.
but I look here, selling items, selling items, selling items, selling items. Asking for donations, asking for donations, asking for donations. But the only reason I bring that up is our businesses feel like they're hit a lot. And I don't know if this is more family-centered, seeking those kinds of funds, or what. I'm not, I'm just concerned, businesses, our relationship with our businesses, when kids knock on the door.
I think we have to help find a balance. There has to be a balance. Sometimes it gets overdone, and sometimes it's...
Well, I look at this, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 food for kids sales from middle school.
Each grade level is supposed to raise $1,000 for our Food for Kids, the food packaging event. And so it's things like I'm not sure what you're looking at, but they're not selling, they're raising, like, maybe they're gonna have a hat day at school, and can I see what you're?
If I can reiterate, well, what she's saying, just because my kids are in middle school
Yeah,
right now,
it's
so
not-
the middle school teams with Rotary, correct, is to
Right.
do a Food for Kids packing day. So they
Yeah.
pack meals
Yeah.
for needy people around the world.
Yeah.
So each grade is tasked with raising money to be
Mhm.
able to make the purchase of the supplies. So they do within the classroom sort of activities. So kind of like, I would liken it to like a Jean Day for United
Yes.
Way. If the kids want to send a peppermint, a candy cane is one of them.
Yeah.
Buy candygrams and they would deliver them between their classmates, and they were like 50 cents a
Yeah,
piece.
it's
They-
just sales
pennies,
going on
they
within
bring
the
in
school.
pennies one day,
Yeah.
nickels one day, those kinds of activities.
Yeah.
So it's not, they're not going door to door
No.
selling a product. It's each grade trying to raise
$1,000.
those funds for that particular
Each
activity.
year, each grade has to raise $1,000 for this project.
That's what they ask. I've never seen a report on if they need it or not, but that's each of the state
All right.
goal.
Yeah, thank you. That
So-
helps.
so
That
it's
helps
not-
explain
yeah.
it to me.
There are a lot
Things
on there.
going on in the school, so
Yeah.
tomorrow there might,
I understand now.
Yeah. So it seems like a lot, but it's not, it's not the
My
community.
concern was door to door. If it's door to door, people, they get tired
There's
of door
still a
to
lot
door.
of There's
Yeah,
still
I
a
know,
lot.
I know, been there, done that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I think it's a great cause. It's just concern for our relationship with our community on those things.
Hey, very good. School board goals.
Just some updates for you that I think have taken place since the last meeting in January. Some things that have happened. We're continuing here tomorrow, and with orientation sessions for Sarah and Aaron, and a lot of our staff members will be in to talk to them. I'm trying to keep you updated in terms of the legislative session, and I know that many of you get information from the Minnesota School Boards Association and also Minnesota Rural Education Association. The review and comment document as part of an advocacy effort was reviewed and approved earlier this month, and some of you sent correspondence to the governor prior to his budget plan release today, just advocating for basically appropriate resources for our schools.
Moving on to, we had a mid-year review of our Superintendent Munson. We completed that for the first half of 2018-19 in a closed session conducted on February 4th. As part of the performance review process, an online evaluation was completed by the school board. The evaluation consisted of 2 sections related to each of the mutually agreed upon performance incentives goals for the school year. The survey results were all meeting expectations or exceeding expectations. The results are good, and the school board has been pleased with Superintendent Munson's performance during the first half of 2018-19 school year. Maybe you'd like to add anything else to that? Moving on to our action items. Approval of resolution calling for the election. So moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Open for discussion.
So this is the formal resolution calling for the May 14th, 2019 building bond referendum. It's relatively detailed, but a lot of the facts, if you will, of what's going to happen and when it's going to take place and different things like that is included. There's a sample ballot that is essentially what will appear on the ballot when folks show up, either then or if they vote early, what that will look like. If you have any questions, I can answer it. This is the next step and more of a formal one in the referendum process.
So Scott, off the top of my head, early voting starts when?
Yeah, in March and goes until May 13th, I believe, the day before the election. 13. March 29th to May 13th. Yep. 3/29 to 5/13.
Very good. Moving on. Oh, we got to vote. I'm sorry.
You have to do a roll call vote. Right? We have to do a roll call on a resolution?
They all are. We
See where we were. For some reason I'm off track here.
It's all the snow days, Jeff.
He's gone a month. He forgets how to work it.
All right, so we moved it, and I had Bill second. Now call for a vote, please. And it is approved. Our next action item is approval of the 2019-2020 Southwest West Central Membership Agreement. Do we have a motion? Motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's open for discussion.
Dion, is there anything you want to share about this? It looks like there were a few minor changes to the contracts from this year to next year, but anything specific?
Nothing that was out of line in previous years. This is the contract they send out typically this time of year for next year. Contract went down 3,000, a little over 3,000.
See that?
Very good. I'll call for a vote. It is approved. Our next action item is approval of the resolution ratifying the award of the sale, determining the form and details, authorizing the execution, delivery, and registration, and providing for the payment of general obligation facilities maintenance bonds.
Nice. So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Deanne, you want to explain
I
these?
would love to. If you can open up the first attachment, Tricia. So back in December, I believe December 3rd, the board approved for us to go out to do bonds for the roofing project. Initially, it was approved to do a $1.6 million bond. The good news is we were estimated to come in at 3.14% in the interest, and it came in at 2.18, which is technically a $15,000 savings. Just try to break it down a little bit. So we are actually going to receive $1,563,779 for the project. If you subtract that from the total principal and interest, it's about $138,421 if you wanted to see what the cost, technically the interest and cost of issuance comes up to. And it's lowered because the original issuance premium is coming in at $126,000, and that's because the interest rate is higher than the yield, so we're actually getting a larger amount. So just trying to, we had talked about, is this the smarter way to go? Will we save some money even though we're paying the extra money? And back when we initially asked Tremco what it would cost to do it over 4 years with an estimated inflation, it was about $170,000 or $147,000. So by doing this way, it's kind of just an estimate, we're saving about $9,000 and getting it done over 2 years. So it turned out very well. Just Baird did our bond for us, and they did a nice job.
Very good.
Questions?
I think it's the way to go. Any other questions? Gotta have roofs. Call for a vote. It is approved. 2018-19 calendar adjustments. Motion to approve the changes. We need a second for discussion.
I'll second.
Open for discussion.
All right, I'll try to walk through this and talk to you a little bit about sort of what we've been looking at. Some of what I'll share with you is just informational for your own reference, and then I'll get to the recommendation, go through the calendar, and talk about that a little bit. So some things to maybe be aware of or think about. I believe that we've missed 63.5 hours of instructional time because of late starts, early dismissals, and canceled school days. That's about 9.2 days. So I think yesterday I was a little bit overwhelmed with all the options that were being thrown out there, and it was just hard to really pull the best one or combination of those out of the air, if you will. We certainly have to take into account contractual obligations. I never felt really like any of us had the idea that we felt was going to be the best one, but we had some really good discussion. There were a lot of questions about the governor, and is he going to forgive days? And I think there's a chance that he will, but I don't know that we'll know that until April or May, and by then it's too late if he says no. So that's sort of that unknown out there. We had several of our principals talk about the amount of lost instruction time prior to the state assessment. So adding on days in June, I think the May 31st, June 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th wasn't really a good option in terms of that, from that aspect. We recognize that when we make calendar changes like those that are included in the recommendation that I have for you, there are people who have travel plans, airline tickets, those things, and but there's really no change that we can make that I think will not affect some folks. So we've really, we're aware of that and tried to take that into account. You know, trying to figure out, well, what is best for students? What's best for staff? What's best for families? They're not always the same solutions, but we definitely have, I feel like, taken a look at all of those. It's February 19th. We still have some days left in February and March and April, and there's no guarantee that we won't have any snow days the rest of the year, but we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get to it, and we've included, or I've included in my recommendation some information about that. So to the calendar that is on the board, and I think you also have a copy of this. In January and February, the days that I'm going to call it purple, that are shaded in purple, so the 18th, 28th, 29th, and 30th of January, and then the 7th and 8th of February, those are days that school was called off either for cold or snow, just for your information. The days that are circled, so March 25th, April 18th, May 30th and 31st, and June 3rd and 4th, those are days that in one way or another either are or may be involved in the recommendation should you choose to approve that tonight. If you, Tricia, can you go down to the two-column part? So on the left-hand side of this document, it sort of gives a breakdown of the recommendation by date. So, yesterday was a makeup day, so that's in the past. So a couple things. The end of the quarter right now is scheduled in the board-approved calendar to be March 22nd, end of the third quarter. We've missed a lot of days in the third quarter, so part of my recommendation is to move the end of the quarter to March 29th, just to give 5 more days in the third quarter. In fact, I just had a staff member suggest and talk to me about that today. April 18th and 19th on the board-approved calendar are no school days, they're comp days. In the recommendation, I'm not proposing to make a change to that, if you will, but it could be a backup plan, if you will. May 27th is Memorial Day. May 31st would now become the last day of school where we'd have a noon dismissal for students. We would continue to have graduation on May 31st. There have been some questions about that. People have venues booked and caterers paid for and things like that. And then obviously May 31st would be the end of the fourth quarter. June 3rd and 4th would be workshop days. So that's why all of those are circled. The one thing that I didn't touch on is March 25th in the board-approved calendar is a district-wide professional development day. Staff development day, and we are proposing, or I am proposing, to have school that day, use it as a student contact day, and bump that to, I'll say reschedule or bump that to June 4th. Okay? So the recommendation, and it's sort of a package recommendation, if you will, because there's a lot of moving parts to it. I've already talked about moving the end of quarter 3 from the 22nd of March to the 29th of March. I would ask that in the recommendation we not make any changes until after March 4th. We need to give our families and our staff and everyone else an opportunity to sort of be aware and plan for these changes, again, should you choose to approve this. Graduation on May 31st, I don't know that necessarily needs to be approved, but I put it in there because it is relevant and we're getting questions about that. So moving March 25th and making that a student contact day, and then moving that staff workshop day to June 4th. May 31st, which right now would not be a student contact day, would become a student contact day with a noon dismissal. We'd have a full day of school on May 30th instead of a noon dismissal like we currently have. Starting on March 6th, as you all know, we dismiss at 2:20 every Wednesday. So there are 12 Wednesdays in March, April, and May. We would discontinue that for the rest of the school year. So we would dismiss at 3:05 every Wednesday. the professional learning communities that typically meet from 2:30 to 3:30, 3:15, whatever, they would now meet from, this is a ballpark figure, 3:15 to 4:15 on Wednesdays. Some of that time is outside of their contractual time. I think about a half an hour of that time is outside of their contractual time. 12 PLC meetings with 30 minutes of I'll call it non-contractual time is 6 hours. I would advocate for our licensed staff being able to swap that, comp that for the June 4th moved professional development day that is scheduled right now for March 25th, if that makes sense. Okay. April 18th, which is Thursday, if we have any snow days where school is canceled between now and then, could be. Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate that. Yeah. But if we do, that would be our next, or our makeup day, if you will. So we've got a day built in there. And then if we have any more snow days, more than one, then we would have to add them on to June and just sort of bump the 3rd and 4th in this proposal back a day. So that is, we've had, I think, really good conversations with Kathy and the MEA. We've reached out to our private and parochial schools, shared this possibility with them, got some good feedback from them. You know, we've really looked at inconveniencing as few of people as possible. This proposal meets the state of Minnesota's minimum number of instructional hours, minimum number of instructional days. It does add instructional time on those Wednesdays prior to the state assessments. Yeah, it's just, there isn't a perfect recommendation, but I think this one is about as close as possible. Yes, sir?
2 questions. On the changing of the early outs on Wednesdays, have we talked to our church communities? Do we have programming that they're doing on those early out days that we would impact?
We haven't done that, Bill. We could. You know, my sense that's part of the reason we kind of reached out to private and parochial, but just with, you know, all of these snow days have really come about in about a 3 or 4 week period, and trying to get something figured out so that we can plan and move forward. As there's some steps that we just didn't have time to do, or I didn't.
My second question, and I'll ask it on behalf of the seniors. They already know that, well, we don't have to make these days up. Do they have to make up? Will they be required to be there on the 30th and 31st?
No, I don't believe so. We talked about that. So,
because that'll be the first question I get when I get home. So
there's not a minimum hourly.
There isn't for 12th grade. It's kindergarten through grade 11 are the ones that have the minimum number of instructional hours.
Okay. Sorry, so you're going to be done.
Bummer.
Now, you know, they'll have to go to school on March 25th. They'll have more hours because of the no Wednesdays. Yeah, probably April 18th, yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
So if we do have no more early releases on the Wednesdays, would Wednesday homework help just be moved to like 3:05?
Honestly, we haven't talked about that yet, but that would be something we'd need to find out.
Okay.
It's a great question.
What's been the reaction from our teachers for losing those early out days? As far as, you know, we've heard that that's a pretty valuable time for staff development and things.
It is valuable time, Aaron, and I think the fact that we're still going to have them, it's just going to be after the end of the normally scheduled day. It's not ideal. Kathy, feel free, or Nikki, feel free to chime in if you want. I also don't want to put you on the spot. I feel like, and I think our administrative team feels like, there's important work taking place in those PLCs. The other part we have to remember is that job embedded professional development is a part of our QComp plan, and that's state law, so we have to do it sometime. Can't just, if we didn't like it, we couldn't just chop it out. So again, going back to, we're trying to stay legal, do what we need to. It isn't ideal, but again, I think it's as good as we can come up with.
I think the important thing is, at least from a parent perspective with 3 young kids in the district, is with the MCAs and the upcoming testing that we have as many instructional hours before that as we can. Yep. And I thank everybody, because we realize it's an accommodation that has to be made. Same thing with the Village Said people. Unfortunately, it's been this to me is a better answer than having school in June when those tests are already done and all you want to do is get on with your summer, not to mention all the affected community services activities. I've already been talking to those activities that start that first weekend school's out. There's not going to be an ideal, but I certainly think this fits with the state requirements. It's the best we can do right now, and fingers crossed we don't have another 7 days where we have school out, because I'm worried. I'm more disappointed that the state won't work in terms of moving the test dates to account, you know what I mean, to just recognize that, we can move our quarter, that's fine, but, I'm with how much emphasis is put on those things, puts it, I think, our kids at a real disadvantage.
Yeah, and I agree with that, Sarah. I hadn't really thought about this until now, but honestly, I think just about every school district in Minnesota, maybe with the exception of those along the Canadian border, have had 4 to 7 or 8 days of no school.
I would even say the metro. I know the metros have more than usual
Yeah.
as well.
They've already called off tomorrow.
Really?
Yeah. You have this thing.
Okay, we gotta get this over with so Dion can make a Blackboard Connect call, I guess.
I think it's great discussion, a lot of planning and ideas went in, and I think this is a good solution. Any other questions or comments anybody wants to make before we vote on this?
It's not easy.
It's not easy, but I appreciate administration getting together.
I do too.
And looking at all the options and doing the best job. I appreciate our teachers being versatile and adjusting, and I appreciate our students, because that's what it's all about.
What I heard from my sophomore granddaughter was they hated being out of school. They hate the snow days.
No, my son.
You're talking to the little guy.
Boys are different.
All right, we'll go ahead and I'll call for a vote, please.
You'd rather climb a tree and go down the...
It is approved.
Thanks for your work on that, Scott.
Group effort.
Board members, anything else? Thank you for your time and patience.